I was just asking simple questions.
I just didn't think this through. I didn't realize this was a date.
What's wrong with you?
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur coming to you with another review. This week, I checked out Roadhouse. And this 2024 film was directed by Doug Liman and stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Jessica Williams, and Conor McGregor, among others, of course. The story of this movie is just like the 1989 movie. It's about this guy who becomes a bouncer at a place called the Roadhouse. And there's a fight every night, and there seems to be some gangsters who want to kind of terrorize the place to, get them to sell. However, it's up to Jake Gyllenhaal to be the bouncer and, kick all these guys out of their bar. What will happen, though? Well, for that, you gotta watch the movie and find out. Alright, so let's discuss this movie. Well, with this one, it's a remake of the movie from the 80s with Patrick Swayze, which I have seen. I remember, a few scenes here or there. I remember particularly one scene where Patrick Swayze is like, let's take this outside and have a fight out there. And then once they're outside, he's like, okay, bye, don't come back in. And just walks back in. I also remember the ending as well, and don't worry, I won't give it away. But with this one, it's just, a remake of that movie. Did we need a remake? Probably not. I think with this one, it does kind of update the movie, I think, for, the century that we are in. And I think they do a wonderful job with how kind of they do it. With this one, they have set it in Florida, which I think doesn't have the best reputation anymore. So it's just on some little small island in the Keys of Florida, which I thought was kind of a clever update to, the Roadhouse kind of scenery, because I think it just takes place in the woods off of a highway in the original. And so with that, there is a fun kind of element to it. In Florida, it's kind of like the vacation destination. And so they're just there at this tiki bar-esque type of thing, doing this little story about this bouncer having to throw people out of the bar every night. And yeah, I just thought it was a fun update. It's got lots of action. It's got lots of fight. Jake Gyllenhaal does a good job, and we'll certainly talk about him in a moment. But yeah, I just thought it was a fun update to the whole movie. With this one, I did watch it with my partner. And one thing with my partner, if a movie gets too talky, she just starts going for her phone. But she didn't go for her phone once in this whole movie. And I think that speaks to how entertaining this movie is. She actually kind of really enjoyed it. She just started laughing to herself halfway through. And I asked her what's so funny about this movie? And she says I've never seen a movie like this. It's just a fight every night at this bar. And she just thought that was just so wild. And me, having seen the original, I kind of know what's going on. But she had just thought that was hilarious. And then the bar itself, she said she had never seen a bar like that. Of course, me and her have gone to dive bars, but we've never been to a bar where the band has to be encased in wire because it's just so violent outside of the stage. And so she just thought that was wild too. And so there was just so many things that she enjoyed. She just enjoyed the pace of it, the fights, the Jake Gyllenhaal, being ripped in this one. And, all the other characters as well. So I would say, overall, this one's a fun update and a good time overall. Furthermore, with this one, I enjoyed Jake Gyllenhaal. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. I think I really liked him in Nightcrawler. And this one, man, oh man, he is jacked. He's just ripped in this one. His muscles have muscles in this one. And he's supposed to be, a UFC fighter or a disgraced UFC fighter, but he looks the part. He is just so ripped. It's wonderful to see. I do have kind of a problem with Jake Gyllenhaal that I just see, Jake Gyllenhaal for the most part. No matter what he does, I just see the actor. And of course, with this one, it's the same. It's just Jake Gyllenhaal going around. I even forget the character's name, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a ripped Jake Gyllenhaal. He got so jacked for this one, and I'm totally down for it. In addition, I thought there were lots of just fun characters in this one. It has Conor McGregor, who's a real UFC fighter, and he's just jacked as well. I have seen him fight a few times, on pay-per-view, not in person. But I don't know, he's a good fighter, I would say. I enjoy him. Some of his antics outside of the ring don't kind of appeal to me. But, in this movie, I think he does a good job for, who his character is supposed to be. And also, Post Malone shows up in this one, kind of as like a cameo in the first, 5 minutes, and then you never see him again. But I enjoyed seeing Post Malone in it. And so there's just a lot of characters. They have this one comedic character that I really enjoyed. And so there's just like a lot of fun characters, like besides just Jake Gyllenhaal there. You go along with it, you're interested in these characters. Of course, most of them are, caricatures of what they should be, but, they're fine. I really did enjoy them. Also, with this movie, there's lots of action. Like, every single night there's a fight in this bar, even if it's just, teaching the other bouncers how to fight. It's fun just to see all of these different fights. So it is quite well paced that way. There's always something going on. There's always a fight going on. And, to see Jake Gyllenhaal just beat the crap out of these guys is a lot of fun. So this movie, fun update to the original with even more action, I would say. And that brings me to what doesn't work with this movie. Well, certainly with this one, the story lacks a lot of depth. Like, there's very little depth in this. Like, the bad guy just kind of like wants the land because he wants the land. I think they just kind of like hint that he wants to make a development, but like on the other side of the island, so he doesn't even need the bar's land to do that. And so just the way that it all just kind of works, where it's just a fight after fight after fight at this bar. There's very little story, but you're just going along with it. I think if I was to kind of describe how the story, progresses, it would just be Jake Gyllenhaal, starts fighting at this bar and progressively gets more and more kind of guys to fight throughout the whole thing. And that's the story. That's all it is. And I gotta say, I enjoyed it for that. So don't be looking for any story in this one. I can't imagine you would if you've seen, the original, or you kind of have heard of the Roadhouse movie. I think it's kind of a silly premise to start off with, but one that's just delightfully fun, just lacks story. That's it. Oh, but there is one thing that I did find very odd in this movie, and that was that there's like a total of 5 jokes in this movie, and 4 of them actually work. The last one, though, is placed like right in the middle of the final fight scene, and it's just like so ridiculous. Like, someone like hits a piano and they're like, is this piano out of tune? And then the other guy goes, I think it is. And then they just keep on fighting, and you're like, why would you do that? Like, that's such a stupid thing to put into the final fight scene. And so certainly, not everything is perfect with this one, but I certainly think there is, quite a few things to enjoy. As for a recommendation, well, certainly if you like the first one, I would say press play on this one. It's a fun update. If you're just into kind of, action schlock, I would say press play on this one too. It's one of those movies where you can just turn your brain off and have a bunch of fun. So if that's what you want, then press play on this one. As for a rating, well, I'm going to give it the above average score of 6. I was originally going to give it a 5, but then thinking about it, it's just so much fun, especially compared to another movie I recently saw. I saw The Accountant with Ben Affleck, and that one is an action movie, but that one's just so talky sometimes. And, I watched it with my partner, and she's on her phone half the time anyway, so it's just not as interesting. But with this one, man, I was glued to the screen for this one. This one was just a lot of fun throughout the whole thing. And so I got to give it the above average score of 6. And with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.